Welcome back to the channel, everyone. On this adventure, we're visiting the historic Virginia City, Nevada. It's crazy to think when you walk around this town today that back in the mid-1870s at its peak, there was over 25,000 people living here in Virginia City. The town itself was officially established in 1859 after discovery of the Comstock lode. Though mining declined in the late 1870s and the population, because of the mining declining, it also declined rather sharply. The town itself was designated a National Historic Landmark District in 1961. As of 2020, it has a whopping population of 787 people. Piper's Opera House, the current structure we're looking at here, it was actually built in 1885. This building replaced one that was burnt down in 1878, which replaced the one that was burnt down in the Great Fire of 1875. One of the neat things about the Opera House is it's where Mark Twain came and gave lectures from time to time. Silver was valued pretty high in the 1870s, 1860s, and it was on par with gold. This is the Silver Queen Hotel. It was built in 1876 after the Great Fire of 1875. It is the oldest hotel in Virginia City. And the Silver Queen, she's a 15 feet tall portrait of a woman with 3,261 embedded Morgan silver dollars. Her belt is made of 28 $20 gold coins, and her necklace and bracelet were made with silver quarters. It's a really fun town to explore. One thing we found rather interesting is as you walked around and looked at all these buildings, how many of the building structures, the columns to hold up the porches above, were lopsided. I don't know if there was a straight building in this town with all the settling and how old it was, but it was a lot of fun to wander around and see. This is St. Mary in the Mountain Church. It was built in 1876. Also a replacement for a church that burnt down in the Great Fire of 1875. The town itself was just so much fun to walk around. One of the things we learned about was in the 1860s, the Bonanza Kings were 4 Irish investors, including John Mackay. They acquired mine holdings, including the Consolidated Virginia Mine, where the Comstock lode was discovered in 1873. The crazy thing about the Comstock lode is it was estimated to have produced over $400 million out of it. It was the wealth from this silver production that led to Nevada becoming a state. And the Mackay Mansion was where John Mackay actually lived. This structure was built in 1859. It was one of the few structures that actually survived the Great Fire of 1875. When it was built in 1859, it was built by George Hearst. And for those of you that have heard of the Hearst Castle, yes, it is the same family. It's a Victorian-style house that's approximately 40-foot square, 3-story structure. It was later purchased from George Hearst by John Mackay, and it survived the fire. It was also the mining offices. The first floor of the main room that you came in was not a living room like a normal residential structure, but it was actually the mining office for the business. They didn't allow any videos while you were walking through, but it was a fun mansion to walk through, and it was neat to see. I mean, this bathroom, this is like one of the first flushable toilets in the area, and he paid a lot of money for that. It's just kind of amazing when you actually look at the structure, how kind of bland it was. I mean, it is literally a 40-foot by 40-foot square 2-story building with a wraparound porch. And we've been through a lot of mansions from a lot of people that had a lot of money. And at his heyday, he was bringing in millions of dollars a month as a salary and lived in such what a lot of people would consider a simple house. But it was fun to go through, and it's also been on several of the paranormal activity TV shows, have been there at the mansion and stayed overnight. And our guide told us about a story of Johnny Depp being there, and so it has interesting history to it. Then we wandered down to the Virginia and Truckee Railroad. It's privately owned now. At its height, it ran from Reno to Carson City and then split, one rail going to Minden and the other going up here to Virginia City. It was built in 1869 to haul ore and supplies from Virginia City to Carson City, and you still can ride the train. They go between Virginia City and Carson City daily during the summertime. It had a fully equipped nice, clean visitor center there. A lot of history to this train station and just to this area. This engine's got its own little history too. Steam engine number 11. That engine was built in 1872. And while we were there checking things out, we got to see one of the trains come in. It was a neat sight to see. The brakes were a little loud and squeaky, but cool that they still run this line and you can get a ticket and go for a ride yourself. So Steam Engine 11, after it retired in 1938, it was used by Hollywood. And it was in a bunch of movies such as Posse, Joe Kidd, Tombstone, Wild Wild West, in the life and times of Judge Roy Bean. Some of its past passengers included important people of the area and the time, presidents, and movie stars. Then we wandered down to the Fourth Ward School. It's a 4-story public schoolhouse. It was built in 1876. When you look at the size of the classrooms here, it's kind of surprising that it was designed to hold up to 1,000 students at one time. The basement itself was closed off, but it's the same size, and we're assuming kind of the same layout as the other floors, and the top floor also was closed off. We weren't allowed up there, just the 2 main floors that you were allowed to walk around. But it's still kind of amazing that they were talking that they would fit 1,000 students into this school at once. When it first opened up, it was designed for primary, which were grades 1 through 4, second grammar, which were grades 5, 6, and 7, and high school, which was only grade 8 and 9. Grades 10 and 11 weren't added until 1877, and a senior year was added in 1909. It was very advanced for the time. It had indoor plumbing, flush toilets, along with drinking fountains and indoor gas lighting and central heat. The last class to graduate was in 1936. It was declared a National Historic Landmark in 1961 and added to the National Register of Historic Places in 1966. But because it wasn't being used and was left abandoned, it fell into disrepair until 1986, when it was restored and turned into the current museum. This is the last schoolhouse designed like this and built out of lumber that is still standing in the U.S. The White House is also designated an American treasure. I enjoyed looking at the various exhibits they had to cover past classes and student bodies that were there, to printing presses. And Samuel Clemens lived in the area and worked for the Territorial Enterprise from 1862 to 1864. He first used the pen name Mark Twain here in Virginia City on February 1863. And even though he quit the Territorial Enterprise newspaper and left town in 1864, he did return to Piper's Opera House for lectures a time or two after that. So you walk through the museum, and it not only shows the history of the school, but of the area, of some of the important people that helped make Virginia City what it was, including John Mackay and Mark Twain, but also covered the mining itself, showing various equipment and the techniques used to actually mine the ore out of the deep mines, and the techniques they used, and including the timber framing that we actually touched on in the previous video at the Carson City Museums. We found Virginia City to be a wonderful visit. We both feel like we could have actually stayed there a lot longer than we did. There was a lot of places like the Piper Opera House. We would have liked to have visited it, but ironically, the visitor center downtown that we started our tour at, the gal that was down there and very knowledgeable, very fun to listen to, knew a lot of the history of the area. The reason why the Opera House wasn't open was that was her day to run the visitor center, and she's the one that opens and operates the Opera House. So little things like that. It would be fun to go back and visit the Opera House and actually go in and see it in person. But just seeing the different history, seeing information about the Comstock lode, it's just crazy to think that out of the Comstock lode, they estimate over $400 million value of silver out of that one main vein. And just crazy to think how that affected things. At the time that money was coming in was during the Civil War, and the U.S. used a lot of that silver to finance the war. And just seeing the history of how that all unfolded is just, I would say that if you're in the area of Virginia City, I would highly recommend it. A lot of history there. I'm kind of favored that way because I love the Old West. I love that era. It's a lot of fun for me to see how they did things back then, how they lived, the equipment they used to do their jobs. I like the mechanical side of the printing presses. It just, to me, I just find that really, really fascinating. I'm not a big computer guy, but I just am fascinated with a lot of the old history and a lot of mechanical devices that those great minds from that long ago could come up with. And you just look at the complicated mechanisms and how did someone figure out this would work as a printing press, or a drill to drill into the mine face to put the blasting caps in. It's just, to me, I just find that stuff extremely fascinating. I love the Old West. I grew up watching Cowboys and Indians and just love that stuff. So from us, we would give a big thumbs up. It's definitely a place to go see, definitely a place to go enjoy. And if we find ourselves down in that area of Nevada again, I can see us going back. we were able to just kind of scratch the surface of Virginia City. I know there's more to see. There's more to explore, more history to dig up and look into. And we just really, really enjoyed it. And it's just one of our places that we've been to that we would love to come back to, and we strongly recommend it. So I hope you enjoyed it. Now let's go see what Sonja's up to.
So we have already done the quilt shop in California. This was the one for Nevada. The Uncommon Thread. And as I'm sure you just saw there, the website for it is Easy Quilt Panels Plus. So this is a small shop. I think that for a small shop, it's pretty well stocked. I think she has a pretty good selection of fabrics, but her main emphasis, as her website would tell you, is quilt panels. So if you're a person that loves quilt panels, or if you're looking for a specific quilt panel, this would be a great place to look. We had a lot of fun chatting with the owner about traveling and about retirement. She is getting ready to retire, but the good news is she has a buyer for her shop. So the shop will continue to be there even after she's retired. And I hope she has a lovely retirement. We did have a nice visit with her. So go look at her website, find some panels that you like to do, and have fun making a panel quilt.